Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time this morning and joining us for our small business webinar. I'm Chris Whitaker, the Local Assistance Director here with Region 12 Council of Governments, located in Carroll, and coming from you from COG headquarters this morning. So also like to take the time to introduce Rick Hunsaker, our Executive Director, and also Lauren Mortensen, who is, I don't think is on the webinar this morning, but both have spent a great deal of time putting these small business webinar series together. So please note that we will mute all the attendees to limit the background noise, and this session will be recorded for later use and viewing. We're working on, for those of you that have joined some of our previous sessions, we're working on getting those webinars finalized, edited a bit, and then we will post those on our Region 12 website. So this morning's webinar will focus on website platforms and integrating e-commerce. This is really an evolving sales practice. Through my lifetime, there was no internet, and now we're buying things on Amazon or from a local vendor, something that really I think has escalated by COVID-19. This webinar and future ones like it are made possible through Special CARES Act funding provided to Region 12 Council of Governments from the Economic Development Administration. I'd also like to take some time to thank the 6 county economic development organizations: Audubon County Economic Development, Carroll Area Development Corporation, Chamber and Development Council of Crawford County, Greene County Development Corporation, Midwest Partnership, and SAC Economic and Tourism Development for their work in promoting this event and assisting in developing these topics. Our next webinar, Grow Your Business with Google, will be next week, Wednesday, March 17th at 7:30 a.m. And yes, please remember to wear your green for St. Patrick's Day. So, I'm very pleased to announce our 2 presenters this morning and continue on with our webinar series, Kimberly Tiefenthaler and Michael Mittler. Kimberly is the Director of the North Central Iowa Small Business Development Center. Michael is the Assistant Regional Director of the Iowa Western Small Business Development Center. Michael is also the founder of the Rule of Thumb for Business book series. Michael, the floor is yours. Thank you very much, and thank you for taking the time this morning.
No problem. Thank you, guys. So before we get started, I want to tell you that these that we're going to talk about today, the platforms we're going to talk about today, are not all of the platforms that are out there. Okay, there are millions of these guys out there, but I'm going to talk about some of the most popular ones and some of the ones that I've used personally for my business, but also some of the ones that I've helped my clients use for their business. And we'll talk about the e-commerce integration and how important that piece of it is. So here are the ones that we're going to talk about first. These are the ones I'm going to focus on this morning. You may have heard of some of them: WordPress, GoDaddy, Squarespace, Weebly, and Wix. We'll talk through some of these and I'll explain to you what they're used for, as far as how they're used from an e-commerce standpoint, but also how they're used from a website standpoint. Let's start with WordPress first. They give you a website building software. So this means that you can actually download it onto your computer and then work on there, or you can use their website to actually do the work and create the site. Its business plans offer more customized options than any of the other builders. One thing about this site, or this particular platform I'm going to explain to people, is that you need to have some, it's robust. And so you need to have some type of, a little bit of programming background. Although they have made it in the last couple of years, they've made it more of a drag and drop thing, but there are some things that you definitely have to kind of understand from a programming standpoint. I think WordPress is best used for blog sites or informational sites personally. That's what they were originally set up for, was a blog site. But it's also called an open source. So there's lots of people out there that understand it. So it was one of the ones that was pretty top in the market for a long time when people were getting into this DIY part of website building. WordPress was one of the first ones that people started using. So there's lots of people out there using it. So there's a lot of people understanding it. Some of the pros, near infinite customizability. You can, if you know HTML coding, you can customize this. Thousands of available plugins. And let me just talk about what plugins are. You're going to hear plugins and apps. All of these platforms, website platforms, have plugins and apps that do specific things. So for example, when you're in WordPress, one of the plugins that you're going to want to download is a plugin that'll help you with your SEO. Or you may want to download a plugin that's going to help you with your e-commerce. And so many of these sites have those. Some of those plugins and apps are additional service fees. So they may ask you to pay more for them. So just so you're aware of that when you're looking at paying for these particular platforms and looking at them, you may also want to kind of make a list of all the plugins or apps that you might need when you're researching them to find out if they're already included or if you're going to have to pay extra for them. They also have themes. WordPress does things a little bit different, I always say the terminology in these things always changes, but it's the same thing. Themes and templates are pretty much similar. So WordPress just calls them themes. And themes are just basically a layout and design that somebody's already created for you, and then you go in and plug in your information. They have a great reputation and they have great user reviews. So a lot of people really, really like that. The big thing is they have a steep learning curve. So if you're looking at doing this quickly, you're going to have to plan on spending a little more time on WordPress to understand it. Plugins and the full SEO tools are limited to top tier plans. So you're going to have to pay a little bit more in order to get those. And extension customizations required for the best results. So that means you have to customize a lot of those things as well. So that's kind of how this particular one works. Like I said, it's a good blogging platform, a very good informational platform. So if you're looking at just putting out information, it's a great one to use. If you're looking at being a blogger or an influencer, I would say that this is probably a pretty good platform for you to use so you can do those. Here's kind of what they charge for those specific one and what's included. I want to point out that you'll notice that all of these, and you'll see this on all the slides for each one of these guys, is that they have a little asterisk on it. And so you know what that pricing asterisk means is that it's $4 a month if you pay up front for the 12 months. So if you're planning on paying month to month, the price is going to go up. But, and additionally, the longer you pay, so if you're paying for 2 years as opposed to 3 years, the price will go down. So just so you understand, not all of this stuff is included in it. I will explain to you that WordPress does offer a free version. Most of these guys that offer free versions limit your number of storage space. So if you're a person that's planning on uploading a lot of pictures, a lot of digital content like that, music, those type of things, you may run out of storage space pretty quickly. Most of them do about 0.5 gigabyte, which is 500 megs. When they do offer the free service, you'll also see ads not only for them, but for other companies as well. So they run ads in order to make up for the free that they're offering you. But you'll notice that you have the personal, premium, business, and e-commerce platforms. You'll see that the more that you can do, the more that you pay, of course, the more that you're going to be able to do. You'll see that with the business and the e-commerce platforms, that some of the plugins are included in that, which is always a good sign. CSS customization, of course, this has to do with programming language, so you'll be able to do that on your own. They offer PayPal buttons if you're using PayPal as a merchant processor. And then they have premium themes that you can choose from. Okay, so it's a good one to kind of, if you're a blogger, it's a kind of a great one to go after. This is the first one that I ever used, it is, the learning curve is crazy. I will admit it. It took me a while to get used to using it because it's kind of, it's not a drag and drop, or it wasn't when I was first started using it. So that's one that I think is a good one to mention. GoDaddy, I think a lot of people think of GoDaddy as when you get your URL, and just I want to point out that there are 3 components to when you're, and I think we mentioned this last week, when you're getting a website. You pay for your URL, you pay for your storage space or where it's hosted, and then you pay for the platform. GoDaddy's been a big seller in URLs, and I think a lot of people know GoDaddy from selling them their URL, which is their exact web address. It's a menu-based website builder, built to make website building as quick and painless as possible. It stands out as one of the most affordable and easy to learn website builders on the list. But I will tell you, when we look at the pros and cons here, it has limited customization. So you cannot customize some of the templates that they put out there. Mediocre SEO, and if you're not familiar with SEO, the search engine optimization and how Google and Bing and all of these search engines find you, that's kind of mediocre. It has mixed customer reviews, but it is user-friendly, relevant content suggestions, so they suggest content for you if you can't think of it, and there's a low starting cost to do this. So it's one that you might think about looking at. One thing that I have noticed is that I can definitely tell when people are using the GoDaddy templates, because they all look the same. So I go from one person's website and then to the next person's, and I can say, oh, this is a GoDaddy template. They have almost the exact same website, with the exception of their logos are different, and some of the other, their names and content are different. So just be aware of that. They start at $9.99 for the basic plan. You'll notice that they don't have an online store with that. Most of these don't get the online store until you get up into the e-commerce platforms. Again, you're paying for the monthly service fees upfront for the whole year to get that particular price. They do have email marketing attached to this, which is kind of a nice feature. They have appointment scheduling attached to this. So if somebody wants to book an appointment through your website, they're able to do that. They do have the online store if you buy the e-commerce one. Credit card transactions. We will talk a little bit about that here. And then the VIP customer support, which means that they'll help you out if you need it. And most of those support channels are not calling an 800 number. It's mostly chatting through a chat box. So keep that in mind. One of the things I'm going to talk about on the credit card transaction fees, all of these guys, transaction fees are separate when you're doing e-commerce. So what you're getting is, and there's several types of transaction fees. There's the merchant processing transaction fees, which a lot of us are familiar with if we've already have merchant processing in our brick and mortar store. Those usually run anywhere from 2.5% to 3.5%, and then 30 cents a transaction or 20 cents a transaction, depending on the merchant processor. Some of these other platforms also have fees just for doing the transaction. So they may charge you a monthly or a 50 cents or a quarter on top of what you're already doing. So that's always something that you should be looking into, is what fees are involved when we're doing this e-commerce platforms. Do these guys include it in there? Do they not include it in there? So that's one of the things I always caution people, I want people to look at. Squarespace. So of all my clients that use Squarespace, I will tell you that most of them are artists. I don't know why, but graphic artists and artists love this platform. It's drag and drop website builder, has tons of built-in tools and support online, an online store or a blog. It makes it easy to create a beautiful website. They have by far probably some of the most stunning templates that I've ever seen, which makes your website, of course, look good. It's a little harder to use, this one. They say it's drag and drop, but a lot of that drag and drop has to be found under menus. So you've got to find where the object that you want to drag and drop is. You got to find it and then pull it over onto your site. So that's a lot of those particular things with this particular one. Easy to use platform, beautiful designs for the site, great function to support your store and blog. A bit of a learning curve for this one. Like I said, those things are hidden, and it says there functionality sometimes hidden by tabs or sidebar menus. So you got to go and look for them and find them. So search engine optimization. So it does a good job of trying to get it right for you. Sometimes it doesn't do a good job trying to get it right for you. So that's one of the things that you want to look at on this particular site. Squarespace plans, again, when they talk about personal, I want to make sure that people understand what the personal one is on these. A lot of personal ones are, if you're a person, I would say what I would call a social entrepreneur, somebody who may be a consultant, that isn't doing e-commerce, basically doing a little bit of blogging and letting people contacting them through the email. I think the personal side of all of these websites is probably an easier one to go for. It's probably a little less expensive for you to purchase. So kind of look at that. When they get into the business one, they add a little bit more, a few more things to the bells and whistles for you to use. And so that's always a good one, especially if you're going to do e-commerce and those different types. You'll notice that Square does offer an e-commerce on the business one for free, but they charge you a transaction fee of 13%, or you can pay more and get no transaction fees. So you can kind of look at that and find out which one's going to be the best for you. Also, when you're looking at e-commerce sites and you're looking at each of these plans, you want to be able to really look for how many items they're going to let you sell. Okay. Here are some things that I've found that are troubling with some of these things is sometimes they don't have all the bells and whistles on each item. So for example, if I wanted to buy a shirt, I can buy a shirt, but I can pick the size, but if I wanted an extra large, for example, and I wanted to charge more for that extra large because it costs me more to purchase it, some of these platforms don't have that capability. So you have to make a separate item for that extra large and add that in there. So a lot of these platforms, you want to check into things like that and kind of look at it and say, hey, is this going to be able to give me what I need in order to do my e-commerce so that I can make sure that my clients or my customers can choose the right options and I can make the right amount of money that I need to make off of them. So keep that in mind when you're looking at all of these plans, is how flexible is that item? And then you want to also look and see how often or how many items are going to let you do, and how many, and if they limit the number of transactions you could do a month. Some of them do that as well. Weebly is becoming much more, a much more well-used or more popular one, partially because it is connected to Square, and not Squarespace, but it's connected to Square, your POS system. And I'm not sure if you guys understand who Square is. Square and Weebly, the person who owns that company is also the person who one of the founders of Twitter. So he has some knowledge in technology. So Square integrates really nicely with that. So if you have not already set up a POS system, this is a great one to use if you want to use Square. What I love about this system is that anything that I put in my POS system transfers automatically to my website. So if I build an item in my POS system, I don't have to go back and build it in my website. Okay, I just turn it on and say, show it on my website. It does give you a little bit of inventory tracking with that, with the Weebly one. They do have drag and drop editing for the online store. They do have a kind of a weak blog system, I think. They have a lot of professional looking templates. What I like about a lot of these guys, Weebly, Wix, Squarespace, you can go out and look at their templates before you even buy. And you can choose the template before you even decide which website you want to build. So I always encourage people, my clients, to go out and look at the templates and see if they have one that strikes you or is, you know, meets what you're looking for, because that'll make building the site a little bit easier. They have an easy to use dashboard, and like the e-commerce tool is great. It just integrates right in there. It costs extra for most e-commerce options. I can tell you, for somebody who owns a business, a retail business here, Square and Weebly don't do anything for free. Okay, if you want to add something on there, there's an extra service fee for that a month. If you're a restaurant owner, there's an extra service fee for that. If you want to track your inventory or your employees' payroll, there's an extra service fee for that. So you really want to watch those extra service costs and those e-commerce costs. Amateur looking blogs without purchasing or downloading a second app. And it has fewer customer service options. So for example, if you wanted to add a chat applet, which is when you're online, you want to be able to chat with people. It's not going to be as robust as, let's say, for example, in Wix. They have a very robust chat system that integrates with all the others. So that's part of what they do. Here's kind of what you're looking at. A free one. They do give you, like I said, these guys do give you the transaction fees, so they do give you some free e-commerce here. It's 2.9% plus 30 cents a transaction fee. These guys are a merchant processor, so unlike Wix, where you have to pick a merchant processor from the ones they give you, and if you're not familiar with merchant processors, we're talking about Authorized.net or PayPal or Venmo or any of those merchant processing systems. This one, of course, they're going to make you use theirs, which is Square. They remove the Square ads, meaning that they get ads popping up on these sites. So if you get the free one, you're going to see other people's ads. So beware of that. The storage thing is probably an issue when you start doing e-commerce, because you're going to be uploading a lot of pictures for those products. And so you want to be aware of that you're very limited into how much storage space you have on there. They do let you put unlimited products on there, which is also nice. They have some digital goods. If you're familiar with what digital goods are, for example, let's say that I have a PDF file or a poster that I want to sell, but I want people to be able to download it for free, or have music and people pay for the music and they get to download it. Those are what digital goods are. You'll notice in the free version, they don't offer that, but they do offer it in the personal and the professional and the performance one. They do offer those as well. Inventory tracking they offer in all of these. And they do offer, and I will tell you this, they do offer the gift card option. So, which I think is a pretty cool feature. And I'm going to speak from owning a business. We have a gift card option. We use Square in our business as our POS system. We don't use it on our website. I'll explain to you that in a second. The gift card can only be used in store, and it can't be used online. So if you use Weebly, Square lets you use their gift cards, and then you can also redeem those gift cards online. So it's a really kind of cool option to have. Had we have known this, had I done my research before I built our website, I probably would have chosen this option. But I had already chosen something else before we did that. So that was kind of one of the things that you want to look at. Wix. This is one that has been getting the best ratings. If you go to top10reviews.com or you go to business.org and you look at the ratings on these sites, you're going to find that Wix is one of those that is extremely useful. and really gets a lot of high ratings. I have used this one with my clients probably more than any other one, so I understand it a little bit better than the others. A lot of my clients use this as an option. It's easy to use. The learning curve is not as long as some of the other ones are. So I think that's really important. It's super customizable. A lot of the apps are included with it, depending on which one you buy. Wix does a really good job of roping you into using them, because they usually, if you use the free version and build your website, they usually turn around and give you a 50% off the first year. So they're really good at roping you into using their site. So it saves you some money that first year. Easy drag and drop in interface. Limitless customizable options. You can customize extremely easily in Wix. If you use something like, if you're familiar with PowerPoint or Canva, those are, if you're familiar with those two products, it's very much like dragging and dropping and laying out a PowerPoint presentation, or laying out a Canva document, or a Canva graphic piece of art. They have an extensive app market. Again, some of those apps may cost you additional money, so keep that in mind. They do have some negative customer reviews. That also could be because they have so many clients. There's no 24/7 support. So even if you get you're going to see the pricing here in a second, even if you get the Pro Premium edition, there's not 24/7 support. They have the Business VIP, which is $49 a month, and tells you all of this. They have something that the others do not have. They have some high video definition storage. So for example, if you are using, you're doing webinars every week, and then you're saving those webinars and uploading them to your website so people can look at them, they have some of that capability. They will help you design a professional logo if you look at, if you choose one of their options. They have VIP customer support, but again, it is not 24/7. Keep that in mind. You'll see the storage capabilities. I can tell you that they have a lot of other features that we use in our business. And one of those features is the email marketing, which I think we had a couple of these other guys that had that as well. These guys give you 3 emails a month that you can send to your clients. They give you a C customer management system on the back end. A lot of these guys give you that same system. I think Wix does it a little bit better than the others do. You can take notes. Of course, if you want to upgrade, you have to buy additional ones. I do know that Wix does give you coupons for those people who want to get into Google AdWords or some Bing AdWords. They give you some coupons. If you use those coupons within the first 30 days of launching your website, and you buy Google AdWords, they give you some, like $100 free if you buy $25 worth of Google AdWords. So they give you some coupon codes for that as well. They, all of these guys give you at least 1 year of a domain name. So if you haven't picked a domain name, what they will do is they will help you buy it for that first year. And then you can then purchase it year after year. One thing about these guys, all of these guys do, is they automatically bill you every year. So if you're deciding that you want to transfer to a different site or to a different platform, which is not easy, but if you decide you want to do that, you have to go in and turn off the billing portion of these things. Or if you buy those apps, for example, and it's a reoccurring payment every year for those apps, and you decided that you're not going to use it, you didn't like the way it worked, you need to turn that app off in that rebilling platform. So here's kind of the rundown of the 5 that we just talked about. and kind of where they start. Again, like I said, that asterisk denotes the fact that you got to pay up front for the whole year if you want those. They all have a little bit of blogging capabilities. Most of them had unlimited number of products. WordPress has some plans that they do separately. You have credit card payment system. Square says select, Squarespace says select plans. Weebly, of course, you're going to use Square. GoDaddy has select plans that you can choose from. So you can kind of look at all of those. Secured, an SSL secured certificate, so that you're to make sure that you have the a secured website. All of these guys offer that. So that's kind of a nice feature that they all offer. Let's talk a little bit about the mobile-friendly templates. Most of these guys have, as you're designing your main website from a PC or a desktop, they have a way that you can look at the mobile version. So I'm always encourage people to go back and look at that mobile version to make sure that that information transfers as cleanly as it looks on the desktop. So I think all of these guys offer that plan, but it's not as transparent as you think it would be. So I encourage people that when you're using the mobile one, just to go through and ask to do that. Some of them do offer discounts and coupons. So select plans for Wix and Squarespace do. Weebly does for sure. And then again, you have plans and plugins with WordPress and GoDaddy that you can do. Gift cards, Wix, most of these, again, you got the select plans on the GoDaddy and the WordPress, but with the apps on Square and Weebly, you can create a coupon, a gift card as well. The Wix one, like I said, is kind of interesting. We'll talk about that in a second because I'll talk more about my experiences using that. Shipping quotes. I will tell you that I've used Wix and I've used the other ones. This is the part of e-commerce that most every single e-commerce person or person who has a brick and mortar building hates doing, okay? It's very difficult to do. It's not as easy as you think it is. But some of them do offer plans or plugins that will actually use some of those shipping companies out there. Wix uses the United States Postal Service, and then if you want others, you need to buy an app, or you need to get the app from the App Store. But with a basic plan, it's automatically put in there. It's not that simple to use, especially if you're using different size boxes and you're using different weights and measurements for those particular things. It's not as easy to use. So that's one of the things that I think people need to be really, really aware of, is that look at how that shipping works when you're doing those things. None of these guys have transaction fees. When they talk about this transaction fee, this is the website's transaction fee. It is not the merchant processing transaction fee. So that no there doesn't mean that you're not going to get charged a transaction fee. It just means there's not an additional fee on top of the merchant processing ones, okay? Like I said, some of them have great 24-hour support. You'll notice that the design and themes, thousands on WordPress, 500 plus on Wix. You've got some, they say about 28 or 23 on Squarespace and Weebly and GoDaddy. So you can see that as well. The number of apps, again, on WordPress, it's thousands, partially because WordPress is an open source software. So anybody who develops apps can make an app and sell it to you on WordPress. And the same with Wix. Wix has developers and they're developing these new apps and they put those out there as well. Weebly has some as well. So all of these guys kind of do a pretty good job of it. Where I think people, some of the things, I'm going to talk a little bit about the e-commerce part of this, and my experience using e-commerce, and some of the mistakes I made personally, and some of the mistakes my clients made personally, so that you understand what you need to look for. If you already have a merchant processor or a brick and mortar store, and you're using some type of POS software that has a merchant processing attached to that, that's a key integral part of what you're going to look for when you go to these sites. So for example, we were using Square. We had our website built in Wix already, and we were using Square as our POS system. When I sell products in Square or on Wix, when I sell products and I build my my items on Wix, I could choose Square as a merchant processing system. That worked out great. Unfortunately, we're also a restaurant. So when somebody goes to the restaurant app to schedule a pickup, Square was not an option. So we had to get a second merchant processing system, okay? So we had to choose Stripe, or we could go with the one Wix. Wix has their own merchant processor now. We could use authorize.net, but for the restaurant app, we could not use Square. So that created kind of a little issue for us. So that's something to keep in mind. So some of these apps have separate merchant processing systems than what the actual website platform has. So you need to kind of keep that in mind when you're thinking about those things. Secondly, one of the things that we ran into is that not all of these things were created equal. So what we wanted to do was schedule pickups for people. The only way that I could schedule somebody to come pick up an item was to use the restaurant app. I couldn't use the regular checkout app, e-commerce app or shop on Wix without, there was no way for them to schedule their pickup. So it was either they get a notice and say, hey, your order is ready, and then they'd have to come pick it up, but they couldn't schedule it a month out, okay? If they wanted it shipped, that was another option. So that would kind of creates a problem for a lot of people. The other thing is the shipping was a nightmare. We do ship things. We chose to fit everything in the same exact size box, which will not work for everybody. But the one nice thing about the Wix app was they did allow you to add a little percentage onto your shipping, so that if cost overruns were happening, or if you had to buy shipping materials, you can add that on, you can add that percentage on. So I think that was one of those things that we had to learn, like, okay, what's the best way to do this? And so what we did is we just picked one size box, and it made it way easier for us to build. All of these websites, so that you understand how all of these work, with the exception of WordPress, all of them have two areas that you work in, okay? So Wix, Squarespace, Weebly, and GoDaddy. When you're on the back end of the website, that's where you do things like, you allow users who might be helping you build your website, you give them permission to do that. You might manage your customers, your customer management system on that side. You might put an event in, for example. You would put that on the back end. Then there's the design end. So a lot of these things you have to edit and go into the design view to design the website. What I would look for, if you're looking at these guys, is to see how many things from the back end can transfer to the design end. For example, let's say that we have an event that we put in on the back end. Once the event is put in on the back end, does it automatically populate that event on the design side of my website? Some of these do, some of these do not, okay? So keep that in mind. Even when you're looking at apps that might do that, those are the things you kind of want to look for. Like, is this going to populate that website for me? Or am I going to have to go to the design view and drag that event in there and kind of connect it to that design view of the website so that it's actually on there? So look for that as well as an option. For example, Weebly works great with Square, but it doesn't automatically put the products on the site. What you need to do is you need to go in and check mark the box that says you want it on the site, and you got to make sure that it's on there, and go into the design view and make sure it's on there. I think that kind of confuses people because you're working in two separate areas of your website. You're working on the administrative area, and then you're working in the design area. So I always tell people to check to see how many of those things transfer over, and what options they do to transfer those. Some other things I might look at, the gift card thing, especially if you're a brick and mortar, check that out. Check to see if when you're designing or you're putting an item online, that they have a pickup option if you don't want to ship it. A lot of these places will let the person choose the delivery method, and that could also be pickup. So check to see that that is included in the app or is included in at least the site. I know that, for example, Wix offers their shopping cart for free when you buy any e-commerce, one of their platforms. So check to make sure that that's an option on there. Check to see inventory management systems, if that's an option on there as well. The one thing that I can tell you that's helped us out is a lot of the times what will happen is we put an inventory in there, even though we don't really have inventory. We put it in there and say, oh, we have 10 of these. And then it turns it off so nobody buys extra. They also have the feature where you can put it at 0, which means it's unlimited amount. Well, if you get to the point where it's over, you're getting tons of orders, it's overbearing for you, you have to manually go in and turn that off if you put the 0 in there. So look at those inventory management systems to make sure that they're going to turn off that item or product when it runs out, so that you can fulfill the ones that you're needing to fulfill. So that's one of the things that I would recommend that you do as well. There are some other apps that I kind of want to talk about just so that you guys have an idea. Shopify, that didn't come out very well, did it? Joomla and this Jimdo are all ones that are out there. Let me just talk about Shopify. If it's a little more expensive of a package, but if you're starting out as just doing e-commerce stores, this is a great platform to use because they build it all and generate it all for you. They help you with your logo. They makers for tutorials that helps you get your store online and off the ground really quick. But Shopify is expensive, and it can be tricky to use, and you need apps and paid themes to unlock its true potential. But this is one that if you're just starting out and you say, hey, I just want to do an e-commerce store. Let's say you're a candle maker and you don't have a retail spot, but you're just going to do shipping and receiving. This is one that will do it for you and kind of help you with it as quickly as possible and get it on there. You're just going to pay the price. Joomla is also an open source software. It's very similar to WordPress. It's a little bit more expensive, or a little bit more of a learning curve on this one. It is very much was built by those people who know programming. It's been out there a while. It's been out there just as long as WordPress. It just doesn't have the as many followers or as many clients as WordPress does. This one will let you, and I should probably, this one in WordPress will let you host anywhere. So you have to pick a hosting site to host it on. So you could go to Bluehost, or you could go to Flywheel, or any of these places to host your website. It also lets you manage your website without being online. So you can do everything and then upload it later, or sync it to your web hosting facilities. Remember, the web hosting then is going to be a separate charge. So you will purchase the Joomla subscription, and then you'll purchase a web hosting subscription, and you could possibly then have to purchase your URL as well. So keep that in mind. But Joomla is very much a blogging platform, just like WordPress. It's open source, and there are specific servers that only host Joomla, just as WordPress. So that's one of those things that you want to keep in mind as well. Jimdo is another one. This one is ideal for beginners. It's an interesting website builder with excellent free plans, although ads are a must, and it limits the amount of storage space you can have. The company does go ahead and go ahead of its competitors and offers free offerings, providing assistance and support to try to suck you into using them and getting used to using them. They do a good job of that. Password protected website areas and web stores for up to 5 items, which is not very many. But if you're only selling 5 items, it's good. But I think that's one of the ones that you can kind of look at and see. I do want to talk a little bit. I'm going to put our contact information up here because I know this is really overwhelming for a lot of people, and that's kind of what SBDC is here for. But I do want to talk a little bit about some of the things that I would watch for when you're looking at these. The first thing is what are you paying for? Okay, are you paying for hosting with these? Are you paying for your URL? What features come with it? If you're going to do a DIY thing, I strongly recommend that you look at all of them. Every single one of these guys has free. And what I've always told my clients is to go out and get the free version. Try building a page in it to see if you like it. Okay. If you don't like that one, move to the next one. Try building a page in it and see if you like it. If you don't like that one, try building and just keep going on until you find the one that you're most comfortable with. So I think that's really super, super important. If you're going to use e-commerce, okay, look at all the features that they offer. Make sure there's pickup features if you want them to pick it up in the store. Make sure that there's delivery option features, that there's if it's a time constraint or I want to send this out later, look at those things. Look at if you're going to offer gift cards, look at if you can redeem those particular gift cards. So look for that as well. So that's one of the things that you want to do. The other thing that you want to do is make sure that they have other marketing tools inside those platforms. I chose Wix because of that. That was one of the reasons I didn't have to go out and buy an email marketing platform. I didn't have to buy an email marketing platform. I didn't have to buy a coupon platform. I didn't have to buy all these extra things. So I didn't have to remember a username and password for every one of these things to go in and log in. So check those things out. One of the things that I found really, really super helpful was that I could give roles and responsibilities to other people. And sometimes this is a free service and sometimes it's a paid service on some of these sites. So for example, in Wix, I could give the roles and responsibilities to other people. So if they wanted to blog for the site, they could blog. If I wanted them to upload our products, they could do that part of it. So I could give them all that. If you decide not to do a do-it-yourself, and you decide to have somebody else do this for you, okay, and use one of these platforms, definitely ask them to make you an administrator role, okay? Because if something goes south, you'll have the ability to go in and use them. The other thing that I would caution you from doing is I have a lot of clients that I help build their websites for them. And they will always ask me to be the owner of the website. The owner of the website gives me privileges that I don't want, like their financials and those kind of things. So if you're going to have a DIY person do this, let them build the site as an owner. And once it's built, before you pull the trigger and buy the plan, have them switch the ownership over to you and make them the admin. So that was one of the things that I found was really useful. So I do this with all my clients. I'm the owner of it until they're ready to pay for it. Then we switch it. and then they become the owner, and then I don't have access to any of their financial things. And I think that's really important if you're looking at somebody on hiring a contractor, is to make sure that you are the ultimate owner when it starts getting into you putting in your credit card or that money changing hands from an e-commerce standpoint. All of these guys, when they're e-commerce's standpoint, you know, they can go in. If I'm the owner, I can go in and change the routing numbers and those kind of things. And those are things that you definitely don't want to let them have the permission to do. So that's another thing that I would definitely make sure that you would keep track of and watch. Does anybody have questions? Did you see any questions in here?
The only question that we had was about getting the slides, and I said that we could email those out.
Yeah. And I just want to recommend that if you ever look at these things, my first suggestion to all my clients is I never suggest one to them. I give them the list and I say, you go try them and see how you like using it. And if you like using it, then I'll help you build it, or I'll help you edit it, or I'll look over it for you and do those kind of things. Because it's important for you to feel comfortable with it. So to look at that, I recommend that people go to top10reviews.com, and it's actually the word 10 is spelled out TEN, to go there and put in website builders and see what they come up and read the reviews on some of these. The one thing that's you want to be cautious of is some of the newer, you know, I know a lot of people who have these platforms that they build, and then they try to sell this website builder platforms, and then their companies go south and the website builder platform's not there. So going out to the top 10 reviews and seeing how long those guys have been in business, if they're still going to stay in business. And like I said, we only touched on 8 people here, and there are thousands of them out there. And so you really want to find what your comfort zone is and those type of things as well.
Well, I was just going to say that, you know, this is overwhelming for anyone who's not used to the website, e-commerce, you know, the tech end of it, and building and such. So I think because you are so familiar with it, it's nice that we have your recommendations, or the ones that you focus on the most, or you see clients use. That's very helpful.
And I think, you know, part of it is there's a learning curve for any of these things, and if you're not familiar with it. But I always try to explain to people that if you're familiar with like how to do something in Canva, and if you're not familiar with Canva, Canva is a graphic artist, online graphic art thing. It's a great way to just build quick flyers and postcards. If you can familiarize yourself with that, or you can familiarize yourself with laying out a PowerPoint presentation, you'll also be able to familiarize yourself with these other things. And, you know, like I know Darcy, in your region, she knows how to build websites. So, you know, there's people in our organization that do this on the side, as well as do it, as well as consult their clients. So they're good resources to go and say, hey, how do I do something? Can you show me how to do this? And I'm all about teaching people how to do it. I've had people come in who say, oh yeah, I just bought a website and I spent $6,000 on it. And I said, okay, but now my website builder he's not responding to me, and he won't upload my software, he won't upload my content. And so you know, it's good to know enough to hire somebody. So understanding these platforms and knowing them and making sure that you understand them, so that you can, at least if you're going to hire somebody, understand what they're going to be doing, so you can ask the right questions. But if that person goes a different direction and they leave and they take your stuff with you, I get a lot of people who no longer, I know several people who no longer have their URLs because that person hijacked them after they decided not to use them anymore. And they had to come up with an entire new web address. And, you know, those are some things I think are really important to think about. DIY is going to be a little more cost effective for you because you're doing it yourself. I think we talked about this the last in the last class, the last webinar last week, you know, you do not have to do this all in one day. Okay, you can put up a couple pages, work on the other pages, and have them hidden so nobody can see them. So that's things that you want to think about, is don't feel so overwhelmed that you have to get it all done today. Okay, I think that's important. And like I said, we're here to help. If you guys need any help, by all means, give us a call or email us. We'll be happy to help you get through these. Any other questions there?
I don't see any. I think great information, Michael. You do such a great job of stepping us through all these informational pieces, and I am not a website person, so I learn something every time I listen to you talk, whether it's on webinars like this or at our national conferences. Michael's done some workshops there too, and anyway, always good information, very helpful.
Yeah, don't be afraid to do it. I mean, it's you know, but just kind of get a plan in place and decide what you're going to do and what you're going to use it for, and then kind of just step into it. You know, like I said, and you don't have to do it all in one day. You know, put up a couple pages and then, you know, work on some other things and just kind of give it a try. But we're here to help. So if anybody needs it, let us know. We'd be happy to help you.
Any other
That's all I have.
Michael, very great job this morning. Great information. Kimberly, thank you. Michael, thank you. Thanks to all the participants this morning. Again, Small Business Development Center, great partner of ours in many ways. So thank you very much for taking the time this morning.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
Hope to see you all next week and others on Grow Your Business with Google. So
yeah, now that you got your website up, you need to grow it.
There you go.
That's right.
Have a great week, everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.